Sam had always dreamed of living in a peaceful neighborhood, a place where mornings were calm, people smiled at each other, and life felt easy. So when he finally moved into Maple Ridge Community, he felt lucky. His new house stood on a quiet street with tall trees, clean sidewalks, and friendly neighbors waving as he carried boxes inside. For Sam, it looked perfect. But peace doesn't stay forever. Sometimes trouble arrives in the most unexpected way. In Sam's case, it arrived on 4 wheels. The first morning. The first night in his new home went smoothly. Sam slept well and woke up early, ready to start his day. He brewed coffee, opened his front door, and stepped outside with a relaxed smile. But the smile froze immediately. Right in front of him, blocking the entire driveway, was a huge dark SUV. It was parked so close to his garage door that Sam joked to himself, "I can't even slide a piece of paper between the bumper and my wall." He stared at the vehicle in confusion. Was this some kind of mistake? Did someone park here by accident? Sam took a deep breath. "Okay," he whispered, "maybe they'll move soon." But minutes passed, then more minutes, and no one came. The search for the owner. After waiting a little longer, Sam decided to look for the owner. He walked down the street, checking houses one by one. A few neighbors were outside watering plants or walking dogs. "Excuse me," Sam asked politely, "do you know who owns that SUV blocking my driveway?" A man with a small dog shook his head. "No idea." "But good luck," he added with a strange look. Another woman pointed toward a house. "I think it belongs to the lady in that corner house. The one with the short blonde hair." Sam thanked her and headed toward the house. He knocked on the door. No answer. He knocked again, louder this time. Still nothing. Just as he was about to leave, he heard a voice behind him. "What do you want?" Sam turned around and saw her, the woman who would later cause him endless headaches. She had a stubborn expression, one hand on her hip, like she owned the entire neighborhood. "I'm sorry," Sam said politely. "Are you the owner of that SUV? It's blocking my driveway. I need to leave for work." The woman slowly raised her eyebrows. "So?" Sam blinked. I need you to move it." She let out a loud sigh, as if he had asked her to move a mountain. "Relax. I'll move it when I feel like it." Sam stood silent for a moment, shocked by her attitude. This wasn't the response he expected from a neighbor on his very first morning. First red flag. The woman walked past him, not saying another word. She didn't even look at him again. She climbed into the SUV, started the engine, and moved it only a few feet, giving Sam just enough space to drive out. Sam thanked her, but she didn't respond. She drove away without a single look in his direction. As he backed out of his driveway, Sam had a strange feeling. A small whisper inside him said, "This won't be the last time." He brushed the thought aside. After all, everyone can have a bad morning, right? Day 2, a terrible repeat. The next morning, Sam stepped outside with hope. Maybe yesterday was just one unlucky incident. But when he opened his door, his jaw dropped. The SUV was back. Blocking his driveway again. In the same exact spot. Sam let out a long, frustrated breath. This can't be real. He walked toward the corner house again. Before he even reached it, the woman came outside. This time, she didn't wait for Sam to speak. She simply said, "I'll move it later." Sam tried to stay calm. "I really need to go to work. Can you please move it now?" She narrowed her eyes. "You're new here, right?" "Yes." "Well," she said with a smile that wasn't friendly at all, "you'll learn how things work in this neighborhood." Then she turned around and went back inside. Confusion turns to worry. Sam couldn't understand what she meant. What things was she talking about? Was she allowed to block driveways here? Was there some rule he didn't know? He talked to more neighbors that day, hoping someone would explain the strange situation. Most people looked uncomfortable when he asked about the SUV. One neighbor whispered, "That lady. Karen, she's always like this." Another warned him, "Be careful. She's loud, she's rude, and she thinks she's the boss of this block." Sam asked, "Why doesn't the HOA do something?" The neighbor shook his head with a worried smile. "They never stop her. They always take her side." That sentence stayed in Sam's mind like a cold shadow. Day 3, the pattern begins. By the third day, Sam opened his door with dread. And of course, the SUV was there, blocking his driveway again. This time Sam didn't even bother going to the corner house. He just stood there, staring at the car, feeling helpless. He tried to stay polite the first 2 days, but now his patience was fading. Karen eventually came out, holding a cup of coffee, and said, "You need to chill. I'll move it when I want." Sam clenched his jaw. "I don't want trouble. I only want to leave my own house without being blocked." Karen shrugged. "Not my problem." Then she walked away. A bad feeling grows stronger. By the end of the third day, Sam realized one thing very clearly. This was not a mistake. This was not an accident. This was Karen's routine. She parked there because she wanted to. She blocked his driveway because she didn't care. And she didn't fear any rules because she believed the HOA was on her side. Sam felt the first real wave of worry. Was this the beginning of something much bigger? He didn't know yet. But he was about to learn the truth. Karen's parking problem was only the start of a much bigger nightmare. For most people, mornings are slow and peaceful. But for Sam, mornings were turning into a daily battle, a battle he never asked for. By the fourth day in Maple Ridge Community, he already knew what he would find when he opened his front door. Still, he hoped for a miracle. Still, he hoped the nightmare would stop. But hopes are soft things. And Karen's habits were sharp. As soon as he stepped outside, the giant SUV stood proudly across his driveway again, like an animal guarding territory that wasn't even hers. Sam closed his eyes and rubbed his forehead. It had only been a few days, and yet he felt exhausted. A neighborhood watching in silence. As Sam walked around the SUV, he noticed something strange. His neighbors were watching silently from windows, porches, yards. Some looked sympathetic. Some looked worried. But none of them said a word. A man washing his car gave Sam a tight smile. "Morning," he said softly. Sam sighed. "This happen every day?" The man nodded slowly. "For anyone she doesn't like." "But she just met me," Sam said, confused. The man shrugged. "Sometimes, that's enough." Sam felt even more uneasy. What kind of person chooses a brand new neighbor as their target? Karen's entrance. The SUV beeped suddenly. Doors unlocked. Karen stepped out of her house with the confidence of someone who believed the world rotated around her. She held a phone in one hand and a bright pink drink in the other. "Morning," she said loudly, not to Sam, but to everyone else. Then she looked at him. "Oh. You again." Sam forced a polite tone. "I need to leave for work. Can you move your car?" Karen sipped her drink. Maybe later." "Please," Sam said, trying not to sound angry. "I've been late 2 days already." She smiled. A slow, smug smile. The kind of smile someone gives when they enjoy having power over you. "Sounds like a you problem," she said. Then she walked to her SUV in no hurry at all. She didn't sit inside. She didn't start the engine. She simply stood next to her door and scrolled on her phone. She was stalling. On purpose. Sam watched the minutes pass on his watch. He felt trapped in his own home. Finally, after almost 10 long minutes, she slid into her seat and moved the SUV just far enough for Sam to squeeze out. As he drove away, she waved at him sarcastically through her window. A pattern of control. The next day, the SUV blocked him again. The day after that, same thing. By the end of the first week, Sam realized Karen wasn't forgetful. She wasn't careless. She was consistent. This was her daily routine. Wake up. Park across his driveway. Make him wait. Enjoy the control. Each morning became a test of Sam's patience. He noticed patterns in the way she behaved. She always parked crooked, taking more space than needed. She always came out only when she felt like it. She always smirked when Sam looked frustrated. She enjoyed the attention from the watching neighbors. It wasn't random. It was deliberate. Karen treated his driveway like a game board, and he was just a piece she liked to block. Whispers in the community. That weekend, Sam tried to learn more. He talked to neighbors again. This time, they were more open. Maybe they saw how stressed he looked. Maybe they knew it would only get worse. A woman walking her dog whispered, "She does this to make people angry." Sam asked, "Why? What does she get from it?" "She likes drama," the woman replied. "And the HOA always protects her." Another neighbor leaned in and said, "You didn't hear this from me, but last year she screamed at a delivery driver for standing on the sidewalk. HOA still took her side." Someone else added, "She's been warned by the city more than once. Doesn't care." Sam realized something important. Everyone feared her. Not because she was strong, but because she caused trouble and never faced consequences. The first confrontation. On day 9, Sam reached his limit. He went outside, and of course, there it was, the SUV, blocking him again. Karen was standing beside it, putting on sunglasses, acting like a celebrity preparing for a photo shoot. Sam walked toward her, forcing calmness into his voice. "Karen, we need to talk," he said firmly. She didn't even glance at him. "I'm busy. This cannot keep happening. You block my driveway every day." "And," she replied, still not looking at him. "It's illegal," Sam said. "You can't block someone's driveway." Karen finally turned toward him, her sunglasses sliding down her nose. "I live here. I can park wherever I want." "No," Sam said. "That's not how it works." Karen stepped closer. Her voice dropped low. "You're new. You don't understand the rules in this community." Sam frowned. "What rules?" She smirked. "Rules that the HOA supports. And trust me, they listen to me." This was the first time Sam felt a sharp shiver of worry run down his spine. Karen wasn't just rude. She wasn't just annoying. She was protected. Protected by the one group every homeowner depends on, the HOA. A bitter realization. After Karen drove away that morning, Sam stood in the empty driveway, staring at the tire marks she left behind. He wasn't just dealing with a rude neighbor. He was facing someone who believed they were untouchable. Someone who thought rules didn't apply to her. Someone who enjoyed controlling others. Someone who knew the HOA would back her, no matter what. Sam felt the pressure in his chest grow heavier. If she could block his driveway every day. If the neighbors were too scared to confront her. If the HOA always protected her. What chance did he have? But Sam wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. He was determined to follow the rules. He was determined to do everything the right way. But he didn't know that this was only the beginning. Karen had many habits, many routines. And some of them were far worse than blocking a driveway. The real nightmare had only just started. Sam believed in rules. Rules kept things fair. Rules protected people. But Maple Ridge community was teaching him something very different. Rules didn't matter when Karen was involved. Still, Sam wasn't the type to jump into fights. He wanted to handle things the right way, the calm way, the professional way. So after more than a week of Karen blocking his driveway, he decided to take the one step every homeowner would take. He went to the HOA. But he had no idea he was walking straight into a wall. A wall built long before he moved into the neighborhood. Collecting the proof. Before filing any complaint, Sam wanted to make sure he had solid evidence. So one morning, instead of getting frustrated, he took out his phone. He walked around the SUV, taking pictures from different angles. One photo showing the SUV blocking the driveway completely. One showing the position of his garage door, barely inches away. One showing the time and date on his phone screen. Then he recorded a short video, speaking calmly so nobody could accuse him of anger or harassment. "This is day 11, he said into the camera. "The same SUV blocking my driveway again. Owner refuses to move it." He ended the recording and saved everything in a folder labeled Karen Issue. It felt ridiculous to create that folder, but necessary. After all, rules needed proof. At least, that's what Sam thought. The HOA office visit. Maple Ridge HOA operated from a small office near the community park. It was quiet, with a receptionist desk, a few chairs, and walls filled with community pictures. Sam walked in, relieved to finally talk to someone whose job was to maintain fairness. A man in a blue shirt looked up from his computer. "Good morning. How can I help you?" Sam explained the situation calmly. He showed the man the photos and videos. He described Karen's daily behavior. The man listened with a neutral face, too neutral. When Sam finished, the man nodded slowly. "I understand. We'll look into it." Sam asked, "So what happens next?" "We will review your complaint," the man said. "But in cases like this, we usually encourage neighbors to solve things peacefully." "I tried," Sam said. "She won't even talk to me properly." "Still," the man replied, "we prefer not to get involved in parking disagreements." Sam blinked in confusion. "She's blocking my driveway. That's not a small problem." The man leaned back and folded his arms. "Driveway issues often fall under city rules, not HOA rules. We can't enforce city laws." Sam frowned. "So you won't help?" The man smiled politely, the way people smile when they want you to leave. "We will consider your complaint. But no promises." Sam left the office feeling heavier than when he walked in. HOA email, a cold response. 2 days later, Sam received an email from the HOA. He opened it quickly, hoping for support. Instead, the message was short and cold. "We have reviewed your complaint. At this time, we find no violation of HOA regulations. Parking on the street is allowed. Please continue to communicate politely with your neighbor." Sam read the email twice. Allowed? Parking on the street was allowed. But blocking a driveway wasn't. He checked the rules again on the HOA website. It clearly said, "Owners must ensure their vehicles do not block access to driveways." He felt confused, then angry. Why would they ignore their own rule? Karen's smirk. The next morning, the SUV was back blocking the driveway as usual. Sam stepped outside and saw Karen standing on her porch, sipping something from a colorful cup. She looked at him, then made a dramatic oops face. "Still waiting for your little HOA friends to help you?" she asked loudly. Sam froze. "How did you know I talked to them?" he asked. She smiled like someone who knew a secret. "Oh, trust me. I always know." That smile. That confidence. That attitude. It suddenly made sense. She wasn't just protected by the HOA. She was connected to them. Maybe she had friends there. Maybe she had influence. Maybe she caused so much trouble that the HOA just gave up on dealing with her. But whatever the reason was, Karen clearly knew something Sam didn't. Sam tries a different approach. Since the HOA wouldn't help, Sam tried contacting the city parking office instead. He called their number, explained the issue, and asked what could be done. The woman on the phone said, "If a vehicle is blocking your driveway, that's illegal. We can send an officer to check, but availability depends on how busy we are." "Please," Sam said. "This keeps happening." "We'll try," she replied. But she didn't sound confident. Sam waited all morning. No officer came. Karen saw him waiting and laughed. "You standing there all day? Or did you finally give up?" Sam clenched his fists but stayed quiet. The strange behavior. That evening, Sam decided to observe her routine more closely. He noticed something strange. Karen didn't always park in front of his driveway right away. Sometimes she circled the block first. Sometimes she checked the street before parking. Sometimes she looked around nervously, like she was trying to make sure no official car was nearby. Why would someone behave like that unless she was hiding something? Sam's curiosity grew. What was she afraid of? Why was she so desperate to avoid attention? He didn't know it yet, but the answer would be larger and stranger than he expected. The turning point. On day 15, something finally happened. As Sam took photos of the SUV again, an older neighbor slowly approached him. He looked left, then right, as if checking whether Karen was watching. In a low voice he said, "You're doing the right thing, son. Someone has to stand up to her." Sam nodded. "I'm trying, but nobody is helping." The old man sighed. "She's not just rude. That SUV of hers, it's been in trouble before." "How do you know?" Sam asked. The man glanced around again. "I heard a city officer say she has a lot of unpaid tickets." "A lot?" Sam's eyebrows rose. "How many?" The old man shook his head. "I don't know the exact number. But more than 20. Sam felt his stomach drop. 20? More than 20 unpaid tickets. And she was still driving freely? Suddenly, everything made sense. The nervous looking around. The circling the block. The fear of official cars. The confidence with the HOA. Karen wasn't just rude. She wasn't just entitled. She was hiding from the law. Sam felt a new surge of determination. He wasn't going to give up. He wasn't going to let her continue this game. And soon, he would learn the full truth. And witness a twist nobody in the neighborhood expected. There are some moments in life when everything suddenly becomes clear. Like a missing puzzle piece sliding into place. For Sam, that moment came the day he discovered the truth behind Karen's SUV. But the truth didn't arrive gently. It came like a shock, fast and unexpected. A strange morning. It was the 17th day since the nightmare began. Sam woke up early again, not because he wanted to, but because he had grown used to checking whether his driveway was blocked. He opened his door and walked out slowly, almost tired of being surprised. And there it was. The SUV. Karen's giant dark monster, sitting across the driveway like a stubborn guard dog. But something was different this time. The SUV's back window was slightly open. Not broken, just open. Sam had never seen it open before. He walked closer and noticed papers inside. Papers scattered on the back seat, some half crumpled, some folded. They looked official, white sheets with bold writing. He couldn't read them clearly through the window, but he saw something on one of them. A big, red word, overdue. Sam stepped back. Was this what the old neighbor meant? Unpaid tickets? Overdue fines? It made his heart beat a little faster. Suddenly the SUV didn't look like just an annoying car. It looked like a secret. A dangerous one. The unexpected visitor. As Sam stood staring at the window, a white city parking enforcement car drove slowly down the street. Sam froze for a moment. He had waited for this for days, and now it was finally happening. The officer, a man in his late 40s wearing a navy uniform, pulled his car to the side and stepped out. "Morning," the officer said politely. "Good morning," Sam replied. "I'm glad you're here." "What seems to be the problem?" the officer asked. Sam gestured toward the SUV. "This vehicle blocks my driveway almost every day. I've filed complaints, but she never stops." The officer nodded and walked toward the SUV. But then something surprising happened. He looked at the license plate and his expression changed immediately. His eyebrows rose. His eyes narrowed. He stepped closer and bent down to check the sticker. Then he took out a small device from his belt, a scanner, and scanned the plate. Beep. The device made a sharp sound. The officer stared at the screen, then let out a long breath. "Oh boy," he whispered. Sam stepped closer. "Is something wrong?" The officer didn't look up. He tapped the device again, as if checking the result twice. "This vehicle," he said slowly, "has 27 unpaid tickets." Sam's mouth fell open. 27? "Yes," the officer said, shaking his head. "Unpaid. Ignored. Some of them months old." Sam felt both shocked and strangely relieved. He wasn't crazy. Karen really was hiding something big. The officer explains the past. The officer finally turned to Sam. "We've tried to tow this car before," he said. "More than once." "Then why wasn't it towed?" Sam asked. The officer sighed. "Every time we get close, the owner moves it. Sometimes she hides it on another street. Last time, she parked it in a private driveway that wasn't hers. She's avoiding us." Sam felt anger rising. "So she knows she's in trouble." "Oh, she knows," the officer said. "Some people think they can run from the system forever." The officer then leaned closer to Sam and whispered. "And trust me, she's one of the worst I've seen." Karen appears and panics. Suddenly, a loud door slammed across the street. Karen came out of her house. Her face was different today, no smirk, no smile, no fake confidence. Instead, her eyes widened the moment she saw the parking officer. For the first time since Sam met her, she looked scared. She hurried down her steps. "Hey! Hey! You can't be near my car," she shouted. The officer stayed calm. "Ma'am, you have a large number of unpaid parking tickets. We need to discuss." "You can't touch my SUV!" Karen yelled. She stood between the officer and the car, as if protecting it. Sam watched, stunned. This wasn't her usual arrogance. This was panic. Real panic. The officer remained professional. "Ma'am, blocking a driveway is illegal. And with 27 unpaid violations, we are required to." Karen cut him off. "I know my rights. I know the HOA president. If you tow my car, you're going to regret it." Sam almost laughed. There it was again, her favorite weapon, the HOA. But the officer didn't look impressed. "Ma'am," he said firmly, "I don't work for your HOA." Karen's face turned pale. The argument that said everything. The officer stepped forward to place a bright yellow violation sticker on the SUV's windshield. Karen tried to grab his arm. "You're not doing that." The officer moved away from her quickly. "Ma'am, do not touch me." Sam felt his heart beating fast as he watched the tension grow stronger. Neighbors began stepping out of their houses, watching from a distance. Karen's voice cracked. "You don't understand. They'll tow it. They'll take it for good." The officer looked at her with calm authority. "That's exactly what will happen if the fines aren't paid." Karen didn't respond. She just stood there, breathing hard, shaking slightly. The powerful, loud, fearless Karen was gone. Now she looked like someone cornered by truth. Sam's realization. As Karen backed away and the officer continued examining the SUV, Sam understood something he had missed before. Karen didn't block his driveway because she liked that spot. She blocked it because she needed that spot. She parked there because she wanted to hide the SUV from the city. She wanted a place where parking officers rarely came. She wanted the HOA to help shield her. She thought nobody would fight back. Sam realized Karen wasn't just a rude neighbor. She was someone running from consequences. And now, those consequences had finally caught up. The beginning of the end. The officer finished scanning the SUV and stepped aside. He looked at Sam and said quietly, "Get ready. Things are about to get interesting." Sam raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" The officer smirked slightly. "With 27 unpaid tickets, this SUV is going to be towed. Soon." Karen heard him and her voice cracked again. "You can't do that. You can't." The officer didn't reply. He just walked back to his car to make a phone call. Sam stood there watching as Karen paced back and forth, grabbing her hair, muttering to herself. The game she played for weeks was falling apart. And the nightmare she created for Sam was about to turn into her own. Sam thought he had seen everything. Karen's SUV blocking his driveway every day, her smug arrogance, her impossible confidence, he had lived through it all. But nothing could have prepared him for the chaos that the HOA would create. Because in Maple Ridge community, the HOA wasn't just a governing body. It was a force, and Karen knew exactly how to use it. The morning after the officer visit. The next morning, Sam opened his door with a cautious optimism. He expected the SUV to be there, but something felt different. The street was quiet. Too quiet. No Karen. No SUV. For a moment, Sam allowed himself to hope. Maybe the city officer had done something overnight. Then, he noticed the letter in his mailbox. It was from the HOA. The envelope was thick and official-looking. Sam's stomach sank. A warning from the HOA. Sam tore the envelope open and read the letter slowly. "Dear Mr. Sam. It has come to our attention that you have been repeatedly confronting your neighbor, Karen, regarding parking disputes. We remind you that all complaints should be made respectfully and through proper channels. Harassment of neighbors will not be tolerated. Please cease and desist any actions that may cause conflict. Sincerely, Maple Ridge HOA." Sam read it again. Harassment? He had been following the rules. Documenting the SUV. Filing complaints. Being calm and patient. And yet, the HOA was taking her side. He slammed the letter onto his kitchen table, frustration boiling inside him. Karen's triumph. By mid-morning, Karen appeared in her usual fashion. Her hair perfectly styled. Her pink drink in hand. A smile that seemed almost cruel. "Good morning, Sam," she said. Her voice was casual, almost cheerful. As if nothing serious had happened yesterday. Sam held the HOA letter in his hand. "This is from the HOA," he said, his voice shaking slightly with anger. "They're warning me, not you." Karen took it casually, reading it over briefly. Then she shrugged. "Well, that's how things work around here. You have to play by different rules." Sam gritted his teeth. "Different rules? She's blocking my driveway every day. You can't just ignore that." Karen tilted her head, giving him a slow, amused smile. "Oh, I think they can, and they will." Sam realized that for Karen, the HOA was her shield, and he had no armor. The power of connections. As Sam fumed, he remembered something the parking officer had hinted at yesterday. Karen wasn't just reckless. She wasn't just entitled. She was connected. The HOA members, it seemed, knew her personally or at least were willing to protect her because of her influence. Neighbors had whispered about it before, but now it made sense. Karen wasn't afraid of Sam. She wasn't afraid of the law, at least not yet. She feared nothing because she knew the HOA had her back. For Sam, it was frustrating and terrifying. Every step he took seemed blocked by not just Karen, but the system itself. Sam considers his options. That afternoon, Sam sat on his porch, staring at the SUV parked neatly in front of his driveway. He thought about all the rules he had followed. Took photos and videos. Filed HOA complaints. Contacted the city parking office. Tried to talk to Karen directly. And yet nothing worked. Every move he made seemed to bounce back at him. He realized something: playing by the rules alone wasn't enough. To win against Karen, he would need strategy, patience, and timing. And he would need to wait for the right moment. The tension builds. The neighbors started noticing the tension between Sam and Karen. Some whispered quietly on their porches. Some glanced nervously out their windows. Some shook their heads in disbelief. But none dared step in. Karen had made it clear that the HOA, and perhaps the neighborhood, was on her side. She had created an invisible barrier that no one wanted to challenge. Sam watched her from his window that evening, her SUV parked as usual, and a new thought crossed his mind. Maybe I can't rely on the HOA. Maybe I have to wait for the law to catch up with her. The city officer becomes a key ally. The parking officer, however, was different. Earlier, when Sam had spoken to him again, the officer had hinted at something important. She's hiding from consequences, but the law is patient. Eventually, the tickets will add up. Eventually, we can tow her car. Sam held on to that thought. If the HOA wouldn't act, the city could. If Karen had 27 unpaid tickets, there was a limit to how long she could evade responsibility. The officer had also mentioned something quietly. Sometimes, people like her think they can run forever. But all it takes is one perfectly timed action, and everything falls apart. Sam didn't know what that perfect action would be yet, but he knew one thing. He would stay calm, stay prepared, and wait for the right moment. The calm before the storm. That night, as the sun dipped below the trees, Sam watched the neighborhood settle into silence. Karen's SUV sat quietly, but he could almost feel the tension in the air, like the calm before a storm. For the first time, Sam realized. This wasn't just about a driveway. This wasn't just about parking tickets. This was about justice. This was about someone using rules, influence, and fear to control others. And Sam had decided he wouldn't let her win. A growing determination. He made a mental plan. Document everything every time the SUV blocks the driveway. Work with the city, get the law on his side. Be patient, wait for Karen to slip, because eventually, everyone slips. Stay calm, don't give her any reason to claim harassment. Sam knew one thing clearly. Karen had fought hard to intimidate him. The HOA had tried to protect her. But the law had no favorites. And sometimes, the law wins when you wait. The rising suspense. That night, Sam went to bed with a mixture of exhaustion and hope. He could still see Karen in his mind. Her confident smirk fading when she realized the city might actually act. Her tiny whispers of panic when the parking officer scanned her SUV. Her trust in the HOA, possibly her only shield. Tomorrow, something might finally change. And when it did, Sam knew it would be dramatic. Because in this neighborhood, a quiet battle had begun. A battle of patience, rules, and consequences. And Sam was determined to see it through. The storm was coming. And Karen would be the first to feel it. The morning air in Maple Ridge community was unusually crisp. Sam opened his front door, expecting the worst, Karen's giant SUV blocking his driveway again. But this morning felt different. The SUV was there, yes. But something about Karen's demeanor caught his attention immediately. She looked nervous. Not her usual smug, confident self. Her hands shook slightly as she sipped her pink drink. Her eyes darted constantly, like she was expecting trouble. For the first time, Sam felt a small spark of hope. The plan comes together. For 2 weeks, Sam had been preparing quietly. Every photo and video of the SUV, meticulously organized. Every interaction with Karen, carefully documented. Every HOA letter, every warning, every email, filed in a single folder. He had also stayed in contact with the city parking officer. The officer had told him, "If she blocks the driveway again tomorrow morning, call me immediately. We'll send a tow truck." With all her unpaid tickets, the SUV can't stay forever. Sam hadn't missed a single day. He knew today might be the perfect moment. Karen's nervous arrival. At exactly 7:45 a.m., Karen stepped out. She looked around, almost cautiously, before walking to her SUV. Sam watched from behind his front door, heart pounding. Karen unlocked the SUV and slowly got in. She didn't start the engine immediately. She looked at Sam's house, then down the street, then at the sidewalk. It was clear. She sensed something different. Sam quietly dialed the parking officer. "This is Sam. She's blocking my driveway right now. Please hurry." The officer arrives. Within minutes, a parking enforcement car pulled up. Karen's eyes widened. Her usual confidence vanished like smoke. She watched as the officer stepped out, clipboard in hand, scanning the SUV's license plate. Sam felt a rush of adrenaline. Finally. After weeks of intimidation, the law was on his side. Karen rushed toward the officer, waving her hands. "Wait. Wait. You can't do this. I'm protected by the HOA." The officer didn't flinch. "Ma'am, that doesn't matter. You have 27 unpaid parking tickets. This SUV is subject to towing. Step aside." Karen froze. Her face went pale. Her hands trembled. The tense confrontation. Neighbors began to notice the commotion. From windows and porches, they whispered in surprise. Some even came outside to watch. Karen shouted, trying to regain control. "You can't touch my car. I know the HOA. They'll stop you." The officer remained calm. "You should have paid the tickets. Now we follow the law. Step aside." Sam watched quietly, his heart racing. Every second of waiting had led to this moment. Karen tried to grab her SUV door handle, as if she could physically stop the tow truck. Her panic grew more intense. "You don't understand. You can't take my car. You can't." The officer held up a hand. "Ma'am, the tow truck is here. Please step back." The tow truck arrives. A tow truck slowly pulled up, its bright yellow lights flashing. The operator jumped out and immediately started hooking the SUV. Karen's panic became almost desperate. "No! You can't do this." She banged on the SUV's windows, shouted for neighbors to help, and even tried to call someone in the HOA. But it was too late. The SUV, heavy and stubborn, was lifted onto the tow truck. Karen shrieked in disbelief. Her entire morning, her daily routine, all her control over the street, gone in seconds. Neighbors watch in awe. The neighbors, who had watched silently for weeks, now gathered around. Some whispered excitedly, "Finally! Someone did it!" Others shook their heads in disbelief. She never thought the law would catch up to her. Sam didn't celebrate openly. He simply watched as the tow truck drove away, carrying Karen's SUV and her power out of the street. For the first time, he felt a wave of relief. The daily tension, the frustration, the fear, it was over. Karen's collapse. Karen slumped to the sidewalk, holding her head in her hands. The confident, fearless woman was gone. All that remained was a small, frightened figure who had spent weeks believing she was untouchable. The officer approached her calmly. "Ma'am, you need to pay your 27 tickets before your car is released. You may also face additional fines." Karen shook her head, unable to speak. Her eyes darted toward the crowd of neighbors, then back to the tow truck, then at Sam. Sam felt no anger now. No revenge. Just relief. The nightmare that had haunted his mornings for weeks was finally ending. The silent victory. As the tow truck disappeared around the corner, the street felt different. Quiet. Calm. Free. Sam finally stepped into his driveway. He looked at the empty street in front of his garage. For the first time in weeks, he could pull out his car without fear. The neighbors gave him quiet nods and smiles as they passed. Some even whispered words of congratulations. Sam realized something: this wasn't just about a driveway. It was about standing up to someone who abused power, rules, and fear. And today, justice had been served. A new sense of peace. Karen's SUV was gone. Her control over the street was gone. The HOA could no longer shield her from consequences. Sam felt a deep sense of relief and satisfaction. He knew she might come back angry, loud, and desperate, but for now, the streets belonged to the neighbors again. And for the first time, Sam could truly say he had one without breaking the rules. The streets of Maple Ridge community were finally quiet. For weeks, Sam had endured morning after morning of frustration. Every day, Karen's giant SUV had blocked his driveway, a silent challenge and a constant reminder that rules didn't always matter. But today, things were different. The SUV was gone. The tow truck had carried it away. Karen had vanished from the street, and for the first time in weeks, Sam could breathe. The aftermath of the tow. Word of the SUV being towed had spread quickly. Neighbors whispered about it from porches and windows. Finally, someone stood up to her, said one elderly woman. She's always been untouchable, a man muttered, shaking his head. Sam didn't need to hear these comments. He had watched Karen panic, plead, and finally watch her power slip away. He knew the reality: Karen had relied on fear, manipulation, and the HOA's protection. Now, none of it worked. But Karen's disappearance from the street left a strange emptiness. She was gone, for now. A disturbing realization. That afternoon, Sam received a call from the parking officer. "Sam, I think you should see this," said the officer. Sam drove to the city parking lot, curiosity and a little dread rising in his chest. There, among rows of towed vehicles, was Karen's SUV. Its windshield held dozens of brightly colored tickets, stacked high like a reminder of her long-ignored responsibilities. Then the officer handed Sam a small folder. Inside were photocopies of the 27 unpaid tickets, plus additional notices for the fines she had ignored for years. "She won't get this back until she pays every single ticket," the officer explained. "And honestly, with how many violations she has, it could take months." Sam looked at the folder and felt a mixture of relief and satisfaction. The woman who had terrorized his mornings was finally facing the consequences. Karen's return. Just as Sam began to relax, he saw a familiar figure approaching the street. Karen. Her hair was disheveled. Her pink drink was gone. Her usual confident smirk had vanished completely. She stopped at the edge of the street, staring at the empty driveway. You had it towed?" she asked in a low, shaky voice. "Yes," Sam said quietly. "It was the law. Not me. The city handled it." Karen's face twisted with disbelief and frustration. "But the HOA, they protect me." "They can't protect you from the law," Sam replied. For the first time, Karen realized that rules applied to everyone, even her. The invisible shield she had relied on for weeks had failed. The public humiliation. Neighbors had gathered quietly to watch the confrontation. Karen had always used them as witnesses, to intimidate others with her confidence. But today, the crowd was on Sam's side. Some whispered quietly. Some nodded at him. No one cheered loudly, they didn't need to. The power shift was already clear. Karen, for the first time, was alone. The SUV, her pride and her power, was gone. And Sam, who had remained calm and followed the rules, had won. Her reputation as the untouchable, feared neighbor was crumbling before everyone's eyes. The final twist. Just as Sam began to feel peace settling in, the officer handed him one last note. "Sam," he said, "there's something else you should know." It was a small, official-looking envelope. Inside was a city notice. Due to unpaid fines and violations, the owner of the SUV may face additional penalties, including suspension of driving privileges and liens on property. Sam looked at the envelope. This meant Karen's troubles were far from over. She hadn't just lost her SUV temporarily, she was facing real consequences she couldn't hide from. Karen's reign of intimidation in the neighborhood had ended. And the city was now holding her accountable in ways that the HOA could never protect. Peace returns. The SUV's absence allowed Sam to finally reclaim his driveway in mornings. Neighbors who had once been silent began to greet him. A few even waved when he pulled his car out without obstruction for the first time in weeks. Sam realized something important. Standing up to someone like Karen wasn't easy. It required patience, evidence, and faith in the system. But in the end, justice had a way of catching up, even to those who believed they were untouchable. A quiet reflection. That evening, Sam sat on his porch with a cup of coffee, watching the neighborhood settle into calm. The streets were empty. The air was peaceful. And for the first time in weeks, he felt safe in his own home. But deep down, he knew one truth. People like Karen don't change overnight. She might return, loud and angry, trying to reclaim her lost power. But now, Sam was ready. He had learned how to document, how to wait, and how to let the law take care of the rest. And sometimes, that was all it took. The final lesson. Sam smiled faintly as he thought back to the first day Karen had blocked his driveway. Back then, he had felt frustrated and powerless. Now, after weeks of tension, frustration, and quiet determination, he had learned something valuable. Rules exist for a reason. Patience and evidence are stronger than fear. And even the boldest bully cannot escape consequences forever. The SUV, Karen's daily torment, and her smug confidence were gone. The neighborhood had returned to normal. But the story of Karen's downfall would live on as a warning to anyone who thought they could bully others without facing the law. Sam leaned back in his chair, sipping his coffee, and allowed himself a quiet laugh. Sometimes, the calm after the storm is the sweetest victory of all.